Alright, welcome back to Race Review Episode 16. We are lining up for the main at PKRA. We are starting in P2. It was a bit odd. It looks like we're having... Well, the race did go on. Looks like we got pushed quite a bit at the start there, and so we thought that might be a restart, but no, we're going... Whatever, that's fine. We'll manage. I'm sure this won't be an issue. We're just kind of pushing that number 55 through the carousels. We close up to that number 8. We'll see what's to be done there. Keeping it nice and tight on them on the exit, as it looks like we might just be headed into another race of boring attrition, where we all just kind of single file follow each other through the track. Those do happen. Unfortunately, that's sometimes the reality of 206 racing. So instead of trying to hype up what probably is going to be a boring race, I was going to address something that a lot of people often ask me, and it's a good question to have, really. And it really comes down to, like, how do you actually get started racing go-karts, right? Because obviously, this is all fine and good, but, you know, there's a lot of moving parts, no pun intended, to getting into racing karts, even with 206, also known as lawnmower racing. It's called lawnmower racing because we race Briggs & Stratton engines, and Briggs & Stratton primarily makes, well, lawnmower engines and generators and that type of thing. So what they do is, you can see in that 55 in front of me on the right-hand side, you can see his engine. So that is a Briggs & Stratton engine. What Briggs & Stratton does is they change a couple of things from their lawnmowers to make these motors have a healthy little 12-ish horsepower, which I know isn't a lot. It isn't a lot. There's really nothing to it. But we also only weigh 350 pounds when we're racing these total, including the driver and the gas and all your equipment. So that means that we can go quite quick and get up to about 55 miles an hour in these karts. In this particular race, we were getting up to about 55. So what Briggs does is they take a regular lawnmower engine, they put a fuel pump, a carburetor, and they basically beef it up, so to speak, to allow it to make a decent amount of horsepower, and they seal it off so that all engines are equal, kind of. And that way, that's a good competitive racing engine that doesn't cost $3,000. And so a brand new Briggs motor costs about $650 out of the box, and then you put the clutch and all the other parts on it, and you're in for about $1,200. And so I know that may seem like a lot of money. In the racing world, that's nothing. Racing is expensive, my friends. It just is. And I have spent so many hours of my life racing, and many, many, many more hours of my life working to be able to afford racing. So that kind of is the reality of this sport, and it sucks sometimes because you want to do a lot of cool stuff and you can't do it because, well, it's expensive. And I can tell you, for the cost of this race, for example, so we're going in for about a couple $100, $200 for a set of tires, $50 for oil, $50 for gas. Registration is about $100. So all in, we're in for about $300, $400, maybe $500 for brake stuff. So if you think about it, that is a nice all-inclusive vacation for 3 days. And instead, we're racing in 105-degree heat in the Arizona desert, wearing suits that basically concentrate the heat inside for the driver and make it even hotter. So, oh, don't forget the helmets. They make it hotter too. But back to the original question of how do you actually get started with racing. So there's a couple basic steps. Number one is you want to find a good mechanic, a good guide who understands how to race go-karts, who has experience with it, and who knows how to work on them. because you, as a driver, especially if you're like me and you're on a budget, cannot afford, like, I can't really afford to hire a full-time mechanic to wrench for me, because that's expensive. At national races, you're paying at least $300 a day for that, and that adds up like all other costs in racing. So what you want to do is learn how to work on a kart yourself, and then obviously learn how to drive, and that's a whole other topic altogether. But you can learn how to drive on sim racing and stuff like that, so there's also that option. But when it comes to go-karting, first, I would recommend do some sim racing. Learn how to drive first and race on a basic level, and then what you do is you buy a used go-kart. It could be on Facebook Marketplace, it could be on Craigslist, it could be on OfferUp, it could be from your local mechanic shop. I got mine from Innovative Karting, which is our local shop here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I buy all my stuff from him. He's been really great. He helps me out all the time. So I bought my first kart from him, and it was a used kart. I spent probably $2,500 to buy it, all in with the motor, you know, the whole kart. And then you have to buy a set of racing, or you don't need to buy a set of racing shoes, but they help. You need a good set of shoes, nothing open-toed, right? And then you need a good set of gloves, like the ones I have here. And then you're going to be wearing jeans, or you're going to be wearing a jacket, or just a full racing suit, like the one we're wearing here. And a helmet, and a neck brace. And that way, if you flip the go-kart and you land on your head, you don't end up in the wheelchair for the rest of your life. Which, I don't know about you, I'm not a fan of being in a wheelchair. It's not my idea of a good time. So, anyhow, that's kind of the basics of it. And then you learn how to wrench on it and all that other stuff. But anyway, we're getting towards the end of the race here, so it looks like this is heating up, as that 55 has made a pass for the lead. Number 8, no doubt, is he going to make a little bit of a move here? Not quite. No, it doesn't look like he's going to make a move. So we're just kind of keeping it tight. We're hanging back. Not really trying anything yet. Is that croc always cocks a wheel up. It's so funny driving behind that thing, just watching it kind of bounce its inside left wheel up in the air. We are getting through this race. I don't think we're quite towards the end yet, though, so I'm not sure why that 55 made a pass. Maybe he just didn't like being sandwiched between the two of us. No doubt. Now he's just got two guys buzzing behind him, so that can't be much fun either. Well, I suppose fun is how you define it, but yeah, we're just kind of keeping it tight on here, keeping things going. See if there's any moves to be had here. Not quite making anything yet, so we'll have to see. Still green flag, so we're not 2 laps to go yet. Okay, maybe we have some more time to dive into this. So, basically, once you buy your kart, and once you buy your gear, what you're going to need is a basic tool set. And so that means you want a set of Allen keys, a set of wrenches, an impact gun, and that's a good place to get started, really. Those things are the key things you need to get started. Alongside with that, an air pressure gauge to set your pressures, and what else do you need? So then you also buy, obviously, the oils, and the lubes, and the gas. So you're gonna buy a gas can so that you have gas to put in your go-kart. We race on C9, which is fuel that we get directly from VP Racing Fuel, which is a spec fuel that we use here, and we use spec fuels to obviously try and reduce cheating. It's not impossible. There still are people who have motors that are just way better for no reason, and they do get past our tech, and every now and then they get popped, and it's always it's part of racing. You're just always going to have people who are trying to find ways, and that could be gray zones, it could be definitely illegal stuff, but if there's nothing to prevent them from doing it, people are going to do it, because we're here to win at the end of the day. So you obviously get your fuel, and different tracks run different kind of fuels, and this is why you need a local guide who's going to be able to help you know which kind of fuel to get. And then obviously you need your tires, but that you'll get, again, from your mechanic or whoever sells you your kart parts. So really, once you got a standard set of wrenches and keys, then a pressure gauge, you want some chain lube, some WD-40, some tri-flow lube or some kind of bearing grease, and brake cleaner, some glass cleaner to clean off your visor when, like in our previous race review episode, we got covered by bugs. So yeah, you definitely want to be sure to do that. And then, what else are we missing? Let me think. Obviously, the little screen you can see on the center right steering wheel, having a lap timer is helpful, but when you're first getting started out, you don't need that. They're expensive, relatively. I mean, they're like $500, and they're definitely worth it when you're really trying to fine-tune things. But when you're first getting started, you won't need them, because when you're first getting started, your main objective should really just be to understand how the go-kart works, how it handles, get comfortable with it, and then you start to get comfortable, you know, going side by side with people on the track, and only then do you get to that point where you're going to start thinking about, oh, let me get my lap times down, because what you'll discover when you get one is that you could drive one session and drive it terribly, and drive the next session and drive it amazing. And the amazing session's lap times will be slower than the terrible session's lap times, because the conditions will have changed. And when you're a beginner, that's the most confusing thing on planet Earth. So trust me, there's a time and a place for that. It's not when you're getting started out. And then the other thing, because it's 4-cycle motors, you got to know how to change your oil. So that's the other thing you want to get, is a good supply of oil. We use AMSOIL for our brakes, if I remember correctly. Again, your kart part distributor, the guy who you buy your go-kart from, will know where you can get the stuff. And people in the karting industry are very friendly. They're always helpful. I've yet to meet someone who didn't have a helpful answer for me when I was trying to figure things out with my racing. Is that, wow, that 8 went for a move, the 55 really tried to block and defend there, so we'll see what we can do. And it looks like that was the end of the race. So a late-minute lunge from the number 8, but unfortunately nothing we really made happen there. We were a little bit tall in the gearing. Probably could have made a dive or two every now and then, but that happens.